The SCCA works in the territories of the Squamish, Shishal, Tliaman, Clahoose, and Hamalka First Nations. And I'm joining from Elphinstone, or Area E. And we have candidates tonight joining from Elphinstone, West Howe Sound, Roberts Creek, Half Moon Bay, on the unceded territories of the Shishal and the Squamish First Nations. SCCA is very grateful to First Nations for stewarding these lands and waters from time immemorial. We honor the reverence that Indigenous peoples have always held for nature, their ancestral and eternal connection with the land, waters, and ecosystems which sustain us. And it is in this spirit of connection, relationship with all life on Earth, on our planet, that we come together this evening to engage those who wish to lead and represent our communities in a good way. As we're now very well aware, global climate change is a tremendous environmental challenge that we're facing. We know all the issues that we faced in the last year alone have impacted us on the Sunshine Coast, continue to face right at this very moment, including an extreme drought. These are increasingly impacting communities around the world, as we all hear about, and BC, of course, has been devastated by some extreme events in the past year alone. Simultaneously, the planet is undergoing biodiversity crisis, called by some as the sixth mass extinction, with species extinction rates estimated 1,000, 10,000 times higher than the natural rate. Unlike previous extinction rates caused by natural phenomena, this event is driven by human activities, unsustainable use of land, water, and energy, by human-caused climate change. That contributes to decreasing biodiversity and makes our ecosystems even more vulnerable to disturbances, less able to provide invaluable ecosystem services that we need, all life on Earth need to survive, including clean air, water, fertile soil, etc. Only a couple of weeks from today, on October 15th, voters in British Columbia will elect new local government councils and boards to govern for the next 4 years. Crucial time-sensitive decisions about how our communities will face crises I just mentioned will be made by this 2022-2026 local government cohort. That's the spirit and context in which we begin tonight's meeting. What I'd like to share with you right now, in a slight divergence, are some housekeeping tips for this evening. Up the top, I would let you know that this meeting is being recorded. If you don't want to show up on video, in person on video, please turn your video off. And we ask all members of the public to remain on mute for the duration of this meeting. What to expect during meeting format tonight. Right off the top, we'll be giving each candidate 2 minutes to provide an introduction of who they are and some of their beliefs and pet interests. In advance of this meeting, candidates were sent 5 written questions, and we will be giving each candidate a 1 minute time frame to answer each of these questions in rotating orders. And full answers to those questions will be posted on the SCCA website by October 3rd. When the candidates have answered these questions, we will take questions from you, the audience, the floor. No, that's not quite it. But you will be enabled to ask questions through the chat function in Zoom. And I'll remind you that to possibly open the chat function now, where messages are being relayed presently, if you haven't already done so. If you have any questions about tech issues during the meeting, please send a direct message to the tech expert who's joining us tonight, and that would be Riley. And she shows up. She shows up in the gallery format here as Riley. Is that correct? I'm just trying to make sure that, yes, it says SCCA Riley, Tech A or Tech Assistant, and she will do her best to answer your questions. And of course, you can contact her through the chat function down at the bottom with the blue button that's down there. And you should have a list there. There's that when you click on that link, the blue button, it actually accesses everybody in here. So you can direct message people when you select their name and enter your text and click return. If you have a question about meeting purposes, yes, please send a direct message up to SCCA Suzanne Sanger, who's on here. I'm watching Suzanne as she's entering the notes for this. We're modifying them as we go here. So this is updated in very current information. At this time, I would like to open the meeting by giving our candidates an opportunity to introduce themselves. There's 5 candidates joining us tonight, and they each have 2 minutes to begin. And first candidate up for this is the candidate joining us from West House Sound, and that's Kate Stanford. She's acclaimed for Area F. Kate, you have 2 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself, starting now, and you should see the timer come on as you begin speaking. Take it away, Kate.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kate-Louise Stamford. I am calling in or zooming in from the Alcatsum area, Chaaltnowitch, otherwise known as Gambier Island. I'm honored to be acclaimed for the first time as the Area F West House Sound and Islands Director for the Regional District. I'm also entering into my 4th term as Islands Trustee for Gambier and Keats and all the islands in the Howe Sound area apart from Bowen. Over the past 8 years, I have also been on the Islands Trust Conservancy, and the past term, I've been the chair of that conservancy. I'm also quite involved with the Alcatsum Howe Sound Biosphere and have been working actively with their Ocean Watch Task Force, as well as an active member of the Howe Sound Community Forum. I'm looking forward to our conversations this evening and all the ideas that you'll be able to generate. And hopefully we will be seeing you all at the Scrd office at some point, and some of you definitely around the table as the board gathers after the elections. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks for that introduction. And next on our introductory list, I cede the microphone to Donna Mcmahon, who has been acclaimed for Area E. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you, Michael. I'm Donna Mcmahon. For those of you who don't know me, I have lived on the coast since 1996. And in 2018, I was elected as the director for Elphinstone, which is in the territory of the Squamish Nation and is kind of like the town of Gibson's backyard. My website, if you want to read more about me, is everythingelphinstone.ca. I'm not running, so I'm not prepared with a lot of canned stuff. And I don't have to tell you why to vote for me. That's kind of nice. I can relax. I just wanted to talk a little bit right now about this last term. Before 2018, the Scrd had never had to activate our Emergency Operations Center for the Sunshine Coast. Today, we activated it again. I've actually lost count, but I think we're activation number 8 in 3 years. This term in office was like no term ever before. The new normal is scary climate disasters, pandemic, nowhere for people to live, hospital emergency room closures across the province, rapidly escalating costs, global supply chain problems, and chronic shortages of staff at every level of the organization. And that's not just us, it's all the local governments. That's the bad news. The good news is that the new normal on the Sunshine Coast for the last 4 years has been governments that talk together and work together. We are supporting each other, we're in communication, and we are collaborating to provide better services. And that's the way we need to go forward. I want to see that continue. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Donna. You do describe a very challenging scenario for the newly elected officials, and I wish all of them much luck going forward. And I just would point out that, you know, what I would say, Donna's my director in Area E, and I particularly value the newsletter that Donna has gotten. She's been in the habit of posting since she was elected 4 years ago. And if any of you are looking for examples of best practices for communicating with electors, Donna's got that covered. Just ask her for a copy of that. So thanks, Donna. Next up for introduction is Candace Woods from Area D, or Roberts Creek, and she's the alternate to Kelly Bax, who is now the acclaimed director for Area D. And but we very much welcome you, Candace, tonight. So please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I am Candace Woods. I have been appointed by Kelly to be his alternate director. Initially, we were running against each other for a very brief period of time. And after sitting down together and getting to know one another, we found that we had a lot of common ground, and we decided that the best way to serve the community would be to collaborate. And so I will be in support of Kelly, but we will also be talking about issues together and working on things together. I am a small business owner. A little bit more about myself. I have a bachelor's in psychology, 10 years of experience working with the City of Vancouver in bylaws, and 10 years experience working in the BC film and TV industry, as well as previously for Greenpeace. I moved to the coast recently in 2021, but have been coming to the coast for the past 8 years, and fell in love with the community, or the sense of community in Roberts Creek that I saw, and always wanted to be a part of it. And I'm just very happy to be a listening ear, to take the community concerns and feed them through Kelly, to make this collaboration work, and to work with all the other directors and municipalities and the Seashell Nation to help our communities.
Thanks very much, Candace. Thanks for that introduction. We do have two candidates who are unacclaimed this evening. They are in a true electoral competition, and they are representing the Half Moon Bay. And I guess we'll first hear from Justine Gedias. Is that how you pronounce your name, Justine? I'm
almost.
Leave it up to
Gedias.
you. Gedias.
Okay.
Justine Gedias.
Oh, very nice.
Okay,
Awesome.
take it away.
Good. I'm hoping that the nerves kind of calm down a little bit once this gets started. Thank you very much. Thank you, SCCA, for hosting this very important discussion. My name is Justine Gedias. I am a market gardener. I'm a small business owner, and now I am running to be area director in Half Moon Bay. I decided to run because I love my community. I moved here 2.5 years ago with my partner, and it's been absolutely amazing. And I felt like Half Moon Bay needed a race. It needed a choice and a voice and some discussions. So I'm very happy that these are happening. I also wanted to feel represented as a young-ish woman who is concerned about the health of our planet and who wants to leave a healthy and thriving coast to the next generations. Eco grief is real. I feel it, and I'm sure like a lot of people here in this gallery feel it too. And I am running because I want to feel hope. If you want to see my platform, I'm going to update all of my priorities on my website, votejustine.ca. Please go check it out. And I want everybody to know that I take this opportunity very seriously. And if I am elected, I will bring fresh eyes, I'll bring energy, curiosity, compassion, and dedication to the role. And I do pledge to be transparent, and I will try to be as communicative as Donna Mcmahon, who has a wonderful newsletter. I agree. And I come to you today with great humility. I do not have all the answers, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think elected leaders should be open-minded and should be collaborative and should listen. So if I don't have the answers now, I know that I can work well with others to figure out the answers and find meaningful solutions. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say today. I think it's going to be a great exchange of ideas. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you very much, Justine. Merci beaucoup. And last but not least, we'll leave this with Patrick Dickey, also running for candidate in Area B. Patrick, the floor is yours.
Hi there, and thanks for hosting this event, and thanks for everybody for joining in. Just take a moment to tell you a little bit about myself and some of my goals for the term. I moved to the coast here in 1991. I've been fortunate enough to make a living and remain on the coast. I moved to Half Moon Bay in 1998 and just fell in love. And like I say, I haven't left. I enjoy all the outdoor activities here. Rather outdoor enthusiast. I enjoy the birding here. I saw a mourning dove the other day. All the mountain biking and hiking that I can do out in my backyard. I recently took a kayak guiding course, got certified as that, so I can spend more time on the water. I enjoy the coastline and all that opportunity that that presents. Some of the key things I'm looking forward to, obviously, is working with the existing board and the experience they have to tackle items like our water, our housing. One of the big goals here is in Half Moon Bay is Cooper's Green, the hall replacement. So I'm looking forward to moving that process forward, communicating with the community and sorting that issue out. You know, it's something that a lot of people in the neighborhood are talking about. And obviously, climate change is what we're here to talk about. Before I worked in recreation, where I spent 20 years, as most people that come to the coast, you do what you can. And I started as a landscaper. I worked in silviculture. I've seen the forest from McNabb Creek to Kilhome Lake and all the places in between. So I'm looking forward to sharing my experience as working as an SCRD staff for the past 10 years with the new board. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Patrick. Thanks to all you candidates. You sound like you have a wide range of skills and dispositions, very adequate to representing us in the years ahead. So thank you. Thank you for what you've shared with us so far. At this time, we're going to move on to the candidate questions. That there's five questions that have been seated to each candidate, and we're giving them an opportunity to answer all of those questions. And we're going to start with the first question about joining the Climate Caucus. And just to let the candidates know that the order of answering for this first question will be Donna first, and then Candace, Patrick, Justine, and then Kate. So, first question. Elected officials need support to lead well on climate change issues. Climate Caucus is a non-partisan network of local elected officials and 1,000+ allies across Canada. The mission of Climate Caucus is to create and implement socially just policies which align with global climate, biodiversity, ecosystem services, and reconciliation targets. If elected, will you commit to engaging with the Climate Caucus and ensuring that all council and/or board decisions are considered through the lens of mitigating climate change, protecting biodiversity, and sustainably managing natural assets? Donna, tell us your answer to this question.
Thank you. This is a bit of a softball for me because I've been a member of Climate Caucus since 2019. And I'm also on the steering committee for BC. We're the BC Caucus, and we organize webinars and other information sessions for electeds. We'll get started after the election. I do get frustrated that many climate initiatives are inapplicable for small and rural communities or for regional districts or both. But the benefits of this have been tremendous, especially the networking with people across Canada. I have been so impressed. I'm also a member of the Climate Leadership Action Plan Committee of the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities. And I particularly value the collaboration with researchers from the University of Victoria. Thank you.
Thanks for your answer, Donna. Candace, over to you.
Kelly and I have recently learned more about the Climate Caucus, and we will absolutely consider all of our decisions through the lens of mitigating for climate change and take into consideration what Climate Caucus has to offer, as well as to join the Climate Caucus. We both believe that we are living in this land, not on it, and protecting biodiversity and sustainable management of our natural assets is of utmost importance. And it's imperative that we live in harmony with our environment in order to thrive long term. So a better way to do that than by working with other people on local levels of government. You know, the smaller municipalities can work together to try and do what we can to push that forward.
Thanks very much, Candace. Justine. You'll have to unmute, Justine.
There you go. Yes, support. So that is the joining the Climate Caucus is the first thing I will do if I'm elected, after maybe crying and having a nap. But we are in the midst of a climate crisis and a mass extinction event. So everyone at the table, every elected leader should be a climate champion at this point, because our survival depends on it. So yes, every issue should be looked at through the lens of this climate crisis. We need to act with urgency. We don't have time to tinker and reinvent the wheel. So the Climate Caucus is awesome for that.
Justine, we're not hearing you. You've managed to mute yourself in some way. Can you unmute yourself? Not getting that.
Sorry, this mouse keeps disconnecting. Okay. Okay, so I had like
Okay.
10 seconds or something like that.
Yes.
You can hear me now? Great.
Yep. Yes. we can.
So yeah, so it's a great resource. So yeah, there's templates out there. And so I want to work with the board to identify the templates that could be applied here on the Sunshine Coast. And I would also commit to sharing the initiatives that we have here on the coast and sharing successes with the rest of the caucus. Thank you. Sorry for the technical issues.
Thank you, Justine. Patrick?
Hi, thanks for that question. So I am a recent member of the Climate Caucus and have been perusing their website. And just a note, there is a webinar tomorrow, Net Zero by 2030 model for local governments. So these are the type of things that we can look for resources and continue to use them to help guide our decision making. My understanding from reading through lots of documents and bulletins lately is that the SRD is working with a building adaptive and resilient community model, which works in conjunction with Climate Caucus goals. That was a 5 milestone project. I believe they've completed 3 of those milestones, which are all the feasibility and gathering all the information, and are now in the implementation phase. So I'm excited to hear the board, what they have to say about that, the direction it's going, and look forward to just working with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. And Kate.
Thank you. I will absolutely join the Climate Caucus. I tried to yesterday and kept getting bounced out, so I'll keep working on that. And also any other supportive community societies that can help us answer this huge question as we move forward. I think the challenges that Donna mentioned are only going to get more severe. I will always consider the impact of the board decisions on the profound and ongoing threat of climate emergency and how best to manage environmental protection when considering all infrastructure and development proposals in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, candidates, for your answers to question number 1. Moving on to question number 2, and this one should generate a wide range of responses, I'm sure. Titled Sue Big Oil. For decades, oil and gas corporations have known burning fossil fuels would cause heat waves, wildfires, drought, and flooding, and that we are now experiencing in BC and many other parts of the world. These multinational corporations have spent millions of dollars to deceive, deny, and distract us on their way to billions in profit, specifically $3 billion per day for 50 years, by preventing action on climate change. West Coast environmental law is spearheading a Sue Big Oil campaign to force oil and gas corporations to pay their fair share for the harm they're causing and have caused. If elected, will you commit to protecting taxpayers by seeking to recover a fair share of climate costs from fossil fuel companies, setting aside at least $1 per person toward a community fund to sue Big Oil? So will you commit to protecting taxpayers? That is basically the question. And we'll start this with our candidate from Half Moon Bay, our candidates from Half Moon Bay, Patrick and Justine, followed by Candace, followed by Donna, followed by, no, not, that's right, not Candace, sorry, Amanda. Kate, number 3, Kate, Donna, Candace. But let's start with Patrick.
Yes, thanks for the question. And yes, absolutely, the polluters need to pay. This lawsuit is very similar to what we saw with big tobacco and the effects on the healthcare and the population. So I stand behind this. The Scrd is moving towards a reduction of their fossil fuel dependency in their fleets. I believe they just bought 3 new electric vehicles and are increasing the charging stations to support that. They're working with BC Transit to increase the accessibility of our transit system to get fewer cars on the road, people using the transit system. I have personally signed on to the petition. I would like some further discussion before implementing a tax on people. A $1 head is a tax, and would like to have some consultation with the board and community before I committed to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Justine.
Okay, so you can hear me, yes. So for the sake of transparency, I have to say that I am part of the Sunshine Coast Sue Big Oil team, and it's been an amazing experience. As a private citizen, I believe that we have to use every tool at our disposal to reduce our fossil fuel dependency and prepare for the impacts of climate change. And personally, I want to see accountability. Big oil companies have lied to us, it's been documented, and they are cheating us and our children of a healthy future because they would rather make billions of dollars every day than make sure that we have a planet to live on. So we are a coastal community. We will be faced with lots of climate change related challenges in the future, and it's going to cost us a lot of money. Taxpayers will have to carry that burden. So I think it's only fair to ask that companies who sold us this dangerous product and lied about its effects help pay for the cost of repairs. So yes, if elected, I would want to vote in favor. However, if there's strong opposition, I am happy to have a discussion and review my position. But I believe and I hope to convince everyone that it's in our best interest to join this class action lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you, Justine. Kate Stanford.
Yes, I think there's a lot of potential in a lawsuit in similar ways to how tobacco companies knew of the health hazards and deliberately hid the information. I think that's the important angle of this particular lawsuit. I've worked with West Coast environmental law on other advocacy issues before, and they tend to know what they're talking about. I also would like to see how this fits with other climate emergency initiatives, response initiatives. at the SCRD level and what other projects are being considered in conjunction with this lawsuit, so that we look at a suite of responses to the climate emergency. I will commit to taking further action to mitigate the impacts of the climate emergency and support ways of lessening the impact of heat waves, storms, fires, and flooding in the region, as well as in the West Howe Sound Islands area.
Thank you, Kate. Over to you, Donna.
Okay, this is actually an example of why it can be frustrating to be a regional district. Obviously, we would all like big oil to pay for their reckless disregard of climate consequences, but just saying we want to pay $1 per person, we actually can't do that because we don't have a service for this. The SCRD can't spend money on anything that isn't an established service with the assent of voters. Recently, we've had a number of instances where we're challenged because we want to spend some money on an important initiative, even though it's not very much money, but we have problems figuring out how to do it. So I raised this issue with staff at West Coast Environmental Law, and they said that they are researching the question of how to help regional districts be more flexible about climate action within the limitations of our legislation. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Donna. Thanks for that insight. That's obviously going to be an important issue to resolve going forward on this issue. Candace, over to you.
Kelly and I are both in support of suing Big Oil. We echo the sentiments of both Patrick and Justine, and I would say I don't really need to reiterate those. But yeah, it's very interesting to hear from Donna to know how that would actually take place and how we can go about that as a community. I don't know if we'd be able to fundraise aside from it and then contribute the funds. It's all stuff that we would have to look into, but I'm sure collectively we could come up with a plan.
Okay. Thanks, Candace. Well, we're galloping along here at a breakneck pace. Thanks to the efficiency and economy of our candidates' answers so far. We'll move on to question number 3, having to do with watershed protection and sustainable drinking water supply. And for those of you who've joined and aren't aware of this, we have been posting the questions in the chat function. So they're also there. The text of the question is also available there if you wish to review it. But this question number 3 is the following about watershed protection and sustainable drinking water supply. Sunshine Coast Regional District, or SCRD, and Town of Gibsons supply drinking water to over 30,000 residents on the Sunshine Coast. Primary water sources for most residents are the Chapman and Grey Creek watersheds. Secondary water sources include groundwater sources, Elphinstone, Gibsons, Soame, Hopkins Landing aquifers, aka West Howe Sound watershed. Like most rural areas in BC, Sunshine Coast faces ongoing and increasing resource extraction pressures in our drinking water watersheds, mainly from logging. Each local government on the coast has different overlapping opportunities to advance water supply and source area conservation. Here's the question. If elected, how will you support the SCRD in achieving the following goals? Assess and develop new options to expand and diversify water supply sources, reduce water use through regulations and policies, technologies, incentives, subsidies, community outreach and education, maintain and update water infrastructure, and protect water quality and quantity in source areas, lakes, streams, aquifers, from impacts of upstream development and industrial activity. We appreciate your focus and answers to these questions, starting with Justine from Half Moon Bay.
All right, yeah, okay. So the imbalance between the water supply and demand is once again in the front pages. So the current board, as I understand, is doing great work, and we're all looking forward to the Church Road well to come online, but a lot of work needs to be done. So like the space between the supply and demand is kind of like this. It's very close. So I would like to work to get a little bit more of a buffer zone. How can we create that buffer zone so we can avoid more crisis situations? Yes, we need to decrease demand by fixing all the leaks and subsidizing the rainwater catchment, but we also need to increase supply. So if I'm elected, I would work collaboratively with everybody on the board and the SCRD staff and explore ways to beef up this buffer zone. So first, we need to maintain the infrastructure we have, and then more aquifers. Is it building a new reservoir? Is it tapping into lakes or revisiting the development moratorium? I look at all options, but I'll make sure that whatever the solution we find is environmentally and financially sound.
Right on the nose.
I know.
Thank you, Justine. Kate, can we hear from you next?
I'll definitely continue to support ongoing modernization and resourcing of a variety of potable water sources. There's no end point to this situation, as we're just continuing to increase our drying trend. So we have to keep the process going and keep all those options open, and just not think we've finished and like, oh, we're fine now. We've got to keep moving. Without adequate water, our goal of food security is not possible. We should focus on a continued education awareness campaigns and consider ongoing emerging technologies. We must continue to work with the province to pull back forestry activity from stream sources vulnerable to erosion and watersheds that replenish the reservoirs and aquifers. Advocate for watershed cumulative effects data to better assess our vulnerable areas going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Donna, over to you.
I could easily talk about this all night. If residents think you're frustrated, like staff and elected at the regional district are incredibly frustrated too. There's little holes in the boardroom walls where we bang our heads against the wall regularly. We have water projects underway right now, a number of them. We've had a lot of roadblocks that have come up, including an incredibly slow provincial process for issuing water licenses. And the end isn't in sight. I'm sorry to say that, but we are facing a number of tough more years for the water supply. So two things going forward right now: we need to change the behavior of the water hogs, the 8% who are using 40% of our water. And we need a strategy to provide water to food growers who are not registered farms. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Appreciate your sobering insights. Candace, over to you for your answer.
Okay, I'm going to go as fast as I can. Okay, by working to implement a co-management water governance model that includes all communities and watershed protection, that will also engage with nonprofits. We need to urge the SRD to expedite metering. A tiered system of pricing based on quantity is logical. We also need to discern a way to figure out who's using water for food production versus ornamental and recreational use. We need to incentivize water conservation and increase public outreach and education. Our average consumption on the coast is something like 570 liters per day, and the Canadian average is 330 liters a day. We need to find a better way to subsidize water storage and rain capture to make it more affordable for everyone. We believe that most of the taxpayer dollars currently go to recreation and culture, and maybe we need to move some of that spending over to water utilities sectors. I didn't get through it all, but
You did your best, and we appreciate that. Thanks. That's an admirable list. Appreciate that. Patrick, we finished this question with you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Water in 1 minute. Here we go. Since 2018, when Parks and the Ministry rejected the application to expand Chapman, they made recommendations that the SRD look to make the Chapman source redundant and work on infrastructure. And in the last 4 years, since 2018, I believe they have done all of that. They have sourced out new areas for water, the Church Road well, the Langdale wells. They're reaching further than that with consideration of Sakana Lake, Clahome Lake, and Rainy River. And yes, the minister spoke to conservation. So yes, I would like to see the metering system completed, leaks all patched up. and have a bar that we all receive the same amount of water for the same price, and that the gluttons are paying much more. So yeah, that's our water situation, and I'm happy to continue moving that process forward.
Thanks, Patrick, and thanks to all candidates. I'm going to sneak in a quick question for you, Donna, because you're my director. There's a ditch just a block away from me, and it's flooding water at the moment, gushing water down it. Who do I report that to?
Well, Michael, I'll race right out and look at your ditch, but actually you called the water department at the Scrd, and I'm pretty sure that I have the number on my website, but I'll check and put it in the chat.
Okay, thanks so much. We're going to move on to question number 4, and this has to do with mitigating climate-induced flooding. As the climate changes, we are seeing increasing average annual rainfall and experiencing more frequent intense rainfall events and more rapid snowmelt. Meanwhile, average summer rainfall is decreasing, as we are experiencing at this very moment. Extreme precipitation events are also happening more often, resulting in increased runoff across a dry landscape. Water isn't absorbed into the soils or riparian areas and aquifers. These conditions create major challenges with runoff and erosion management, increased flood risk, and source area recharge. Estimated costs of rebuilding after the tragic atmospheric river floods that we experienced last fall are in the billions of dollars. And this doesn't account for the long-term impacts on fish. The flooding occurred when the salmon were coming home to spawn. The question is this: how will you work with your council and board to adapt to these extreme and changing conditions, mitigate impacts on our communities, infrastructure, and fish habitat? And we'll start this question answering with Kate from West House Sound.
I see this as a question of forest cover. And I know that's just one angle of it, but there are so many things we can do to protect our forest cover. That is what keeps the water where it's supposed to be, stops it from overflowing everywhere. It's a good first step. So I would like to update and improve the official community plans and land use bylaws with better protective options, such as increased setbacks, wider interpretation of riparian area regulations, tree cutting bylaws, if they're applicable for species trees, and always providing good, clear communications about the overall goal of protecting forest canopies. I would encourage covenants. I would look into the Natural Area Protection Tax Exemption Program to protect our forest cover, and I can talk more about that. That's an Islands Trust program that we're hoping to spread to the rest of the province. I'd also strengthen DPAs as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Back to you, Donna.
Oh, me again. Wouldn't we just love to curtail subdivisions? But in a regional district, we don't approve subdivisions. Subdivision approval lies with the province. I have a post on my website, which is why it is so hard to just stop growth. It is not simple in this province. What we really need to deal with, and I actually agree, I think it was Candace who pointed out earlier that we use a lot of water here. In July, the average residential use was almost 1,200 liters per day. That's huge. I used 317 with 2 people, indoor use, and watering a vegetable garden. You know, we've got a long way to go in how we use water, as well as the issues of securing better water supply. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. I'm just saying, I'm not sure who could top me, perhaps. I took three showers all summer because I swim in the ocean every day. Just saying. And my wife's still happy to slide into bed with me at night. Okay, the next question then is to you. If you would kindly field this, Candace.
Okay, Kelly and I believe that although we're not entirely sure of what can be done on the municipal level, but to keep our forests intact, logging to the point of clear cut doesn't help protect us from washout and floods. We also oppose the sale and logging in our aquifer recharge areas. We would advocate for the provincial government to also stop overlogging, as forestry sector is in the province's largest carbon emitter, and push the provincial government to actually protect old growth, as these are carbon sinks. All of that obviously ties back into climate change and why these things are happening. Also echoing Kelly's sentiment about increasing EDPAs and tree protection if and where possible, basically keeping the forest intact.
Thanks, Candace. And those are great responses too. Patrick.
Hi, thanks for that question. Yes, there's a lot of work to be done there. All the points about forestry are accurate. We need to slow down and certainly near watersheds and increase setbacks on boundaries is certainly riparian zones. But also down to the shoreline. Green Shores is another great resource that many coastal communities are using. The 50-meter setback from the shore is going to help fish habitat. We'd like to see no longer these hard breakwaters going in and the docks that are destroying fish habitat and our ocean life. And further exploring the possibilities of tree cutting bylaws. Other districts and regions do have them. Some are based on the size of the tree. We need these to retain soil and take up water. I understand there's a new grant for a mapping system that the SRD got that will help us help show where coastal flooding may occur.
Thank you, Patrick. And Justine.
Yes, thank you for the question. This is a big issue, obviously, and flooding will happen more and more. And I'm not going to pretend that I know the answers to that one. So I was glad to hear everybody else's say. I think we have to turn to nature and find ways to redress the balance. We need to work collaboratively at the board table and with Indigenous people to develop nature-based solutions. And yeah, I think it starts with taking care of the land, protecting our ecosystems, protecting our forests. I really appreciated what Kate-Louise had to say. And maybe that's through the application of EDPAs and a review of our forestry practices. But yeah, there's like so many options out there. I'd be really happy to sit at the board table and hear what other solutions are out there, like tree cutting bylaws and things like that. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Justine. Really appreciate the flexibility and wide range of input on that critical question. We're going to move on to our last question of the questions that were posed to candidates before we open it up to the floor for the audience. This question concerns environmental development permit areas. These are one of the few legal tools that local governments have to mitigate impacts of private land development. EDPAs are clearly identified areas within which development and land alteration must be regulated in order to protect natural assets and environmentally sensitive areas. However, if DPA guidelines are not clear and supported with permitting policy and bylaws, they may become cumbersome or ineffective. The question: as an elected official, will you commit to supporting the creation, use, and improvement of EDPAs, including bylaws and policies to protect ecological and natural asset values in your community and throughout the Sunshine Coast? And we'll start with you, Candace, in Roberts Creek.
Thank you. In the words of the Counting Crows, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. They've paved over paradise and put up a parking lot. A public concern that we often hear is the distaste for large development that often employs clear cuts to create higher density neighborhoods with little to no regard for habitat protection or inclusion of it, or original community aesthetic. People are drawn to the coast because of the natural environment, to be closer to nature or to live in it, visit it, and be in quaint rural communities. We support the creation, use, and improvement of the EDPAs, protection bylaws, and policies to protect and improve the ecology and natural assets we are so fortunate to have on the coast. And furthermore, our natural surroundings are a blessing to our economy and ecotourism. Following standard practices in urban planning would negatively impact our communities in the long run and essentially turn the coast into an extension neighborhood of Metro Vancouver, which we think the people here do not want.
There's opposition to Surrey by the sea. Huh. Such news to me. Justine, over to you.
Yes, this is where the humility comes in. EDPAs, I've been told about these recently, and I've been trying to wrap my head around them since. It's dense and it's super interesting, and they do seem like a really great tool that we could use to promote sustainable and responsible development on the coast. I can't wait to hear what Donna has to say about this. We do need to make sure that developments happen like far enough away from connectivity corridors and key ecosystem elements so we can have a healthy environment, and so that we and the next generations can have clean air and clean water. There are some drawbacks to EDPAs, and they do have to be handled carefully, but if it's done right, I think they could have a really great positive impact on our communities. And I know that Half Moon Bay, we've had some real concerns with developments, and I think EDPAs could be a real great way forward for us.
Thanks, Justine. Patrick?
Thanks for that. Yeah, great question. This is a fairly new term. I have heard it before, just following along with our water and other issues. One area that I think this could be useful is in our GSM mapping, reviewing that to see if there are sensitive areas that were overlooked in the past and deemed not sensitive, but if that was 10 years ago, situations have changed drastically, and perhaps small areas that were overlooked need to be reviewed again. I recently did a workshop with the BC Wildlife Federation on wetland restoration, and really opened my eyes to the importance of these type of ecosystems and the need to protect them. And I think that a new lens on our mapping and looking for areas to protect rather than trying to not protect areas and open up for development is the eye we need on this.
Thanks, Patrick. Kate, can we hear from you before you jump out of this meeting?
Thank you. I've just come off 2 public processes on the islands, and DPAs are front and center. They are the strongest tool that we have to use to protect private property. On private property, protect sensitive ecosystems. But they're difficult to communicate effectively. There's an immediate response to, oh, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, I can have 2 trees done here. It's the way they're communicated that can make it quite controversial. But in the end, if you want to protect your private property, this is the most effective tool that regional districts have in order to impact change in behavior. So I always say communicate, don't use plenaries, it's not effective, and get out in front of the regulation itself.
Thanks, Kate. Donna?
Great advice from Kate. The SCRD's development permit areas are outdated. They're kind of 1970s, and they don't address the reality of our changing climate or the concerns that I've heard from residents. And the 3 big ones are stormwater, aquifer protection, and tree cutting. We can't incidentally do tree cutting bylaws, one of the fun things about being a regional district. So I expect that we'll see EDPAs coming forward when our official community plans are overhauled. The example of Nanaimo that was in the chat is a good one. We need to reflect current best practices. Right now, we have 7 OCPs for 16,000 residents in 5 rural areas. To say this is cumbersome is an understatement, and it soaks up resources. We can do better than this. We need to rationalize and streamline and have better regulations, just not more regulations. Thank you.
What Donna said. Thank you very much for all your answers to all your thoughtful answers to the 5 questions posed to you. We really appreciate that. And we have completed the question and answer portion of this evening's candidates meeting. We're going to move on to taking questions from the floor. I believe it's the case that Kate is, well, it looks like Kate's already had to jump. She said jump out of this meeting. So she has left us. Kate Stanford from Area D has left us. She had prearranged activities for this. She's acclaimed there, so it's not a critical absence at this time, but she certainly had some valuable insights that she was sharing tonight. So at this point in the evening, I need to read over my directions carefully. And what I will say is that, let's see, for audience members who have a question, now's the time to post your questions into the chat. We ask you to be clear, concise, focus on issues that the SCRD can actually tackle that are pertinent to this, to regional government. And just let you know, we have a team standing behind the scenes that will be vetting questions from the chat, and the team will be vetting questions, make sure they're on topic, not redundant, and they will be sending questions to myself. And I will then pose questions directly to the candidates. Candidates who wish to answer questions will use the Zoom raise hand reactions tool to line up, literally line up, to queue up to answer the question. And I will call on candidates in the order that they raise their hands in Zoom. And I just want to make sure no one's got their hand raised yet, because we haven't posed a question yet. That's good. So we're ready to rock and roll with this. And this is where I need to be on my toes to ensure that I'm seeing a lineup of candidate questions. And I am thinking I'm probably got a question. First question from the floor to all candidates. I would like to, oh boy, this is tricky. I got to open this up. I can get all the question in here. Got it. Question. I would like to know whether candidates are aware of the Telus Wilderness Point and what they think of it. Background. The Telus Wilderness Point is located in Seashell Inlet on the coast. It's a not-for-profit initiative from Telus designed to provide young Canadians, including undeserved youth, with the opportunity to experience the wonders of nature. During the off-camp season, the site will be used for hosting strategic and leadership development programs. So it is a fairly straightforward question. I'd like to know whether you're aware of this, this program. And judging by the lack of hands raised, sorry, Justine, over to you. Your hand got up just a hair ahead of Patrick.
Oh, I won the race. Yeah, that's a really interesting one. It does seem like a really nice project, and some people are like, too nice, maybe. But I guess if we're suspicious of everything that sounds nice, then we're never going to get anything nice. So it sounds like a really great project. And the concern is, as I understand, is that if we change the zoning, they might then decide to do something different, and then we will not have control over it, or something to that effect. I believe placing covenants is a good solution to this, and something that's doable. And I also want to point out that this is probably being asked because there were some very engaged citizens that picked up on it. And I think that's really awesome, and good job, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Justine. Patrick, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I have several concerns with this development. I've kayaked around that area. It's a beautiful spot. The neighbors in the meeting online suggested that it was too big. And apparently there is the same feeling amongst the indigenous population in the nation here. I have big concerns about putting a water treatment or a sewage treatment plant right at the head of Seashell Inlet. And the water supply is an issue. They're going to be using diesel generators until they develop their own sustainable power. So how long will that go on for? And there seemed to be a lot of misleading information in their brochures. Again, we're seeing pictures of natural hot springs that are up in the cusp and such like this. And the webinar or the town hall meeting that they held, the information presenting there was not consistent with the information on their website. And so until they have a true package and can give us a real picture of what their plan is, it would be difficult to support such a zoning change. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Patrick and Justine. I'm going to move on now to the second question, and a reminder that as I'm watching the chat a little bit, and would just encourage people, you're not sending your questions to me, you're posting your questions into the chat, they're being vetted, and then I'm getting a text message of the questions. Sorry, and seeing Donna, you have your hand up for this question as well then.
Sure, and I'm just going to admit that this one has flown under my radar because it's in Area B, first off. But if you read the press about it, you would think it was in Seashell because all of the information about TELUS seems to have been directed at Seashell Council, and I'm not really sure why that is. So I'm going to get the opportunity to be educated on this because it will be coming to the SCRD for a rezoning application. These referrals that we get or applications that we get from remote areas are really difficult because there is so little oversight once you're out of the developed road network of the Sunshine Coast. And so I think we have to be especially prudent in what we are allowing in those areas. So thanks.
Okay, thanks, Donna. Next question from the floor to all candidates. How do you plan to fund the SCRD's initiatives to combat climate change? And are you willing to curtail development of new subdivisions to minimize increased demands on our limited water supply? I think we've dealt with a little bit of this question, the development permit question, but maybe there's a different way of framing your answer if you have a thought about answering this. Go for it, Patrick.
I'll certainly take a crack at it. Maybe you could just quickly repeat that for me.
Okay. How do you plan to fund the SCRD's initiatives to combat climate change? And are you willing to curtail development of new subdivisions to minimize increased demands on our limited water supply? So it is a different question. How do you plan to fund the initiatives?
Right, kind of two questions there. I guess the one goes back to the Sue Big Oil, right? And having these big companies, corporations pay their share to mitigate the damages that they've clearly caused. So trying to move that forward and receive some funding for that is a key to our climate action. So that's where I see the funding coming from. As far as curtailing new development, that's a question you hear a lot of because of the water supply. And my reaction to date has been that I really want to see what the Church Road well will do for our water supply. Curtailing development is a drastic step, with lots of economic consequences. So that's where I would stand on that. I think that we need to get the tobacco companies or the big oil companies to pay and look to what our plans are going to hold in the future for Church Road well. Thank you.
Donna, you got something to say
Sure.
about this?
I'll take a crack at it. I wrote a blog post on stopping growth that people can go to. I put it in the chat. And now I just completely blanked. This is great when you're in an all candidates debate and you do this. Oh, paying for it. We may need a new service around climate change because regional districts are extremely limited in what we can spend money on. We must have had a bylaw and public approval and blah, blah, blah. It's very, very long, complex process, but so many things are falling under climate change right now that I think we may have to look at creating a new service. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks to you. To all candidates. Next question from the audience. To what degree are you candidates willing to lobby the provincial government to stop unfettered growth of new subdivisions? And I would perhaps add a caveat in here. What suggestions do you have for lobbying the provincial government to stop the growth of new subdivisions? Are you willing to do this, and what suggestions might you have? Stumped everyone. No, not quite. Donna, you have something to say about this. Thank
Well,
you.
I'm going to say that that is a very tough nut to crack because the regulations, the legislation in this province is built around unfettered growth. The default answer to growth is yes. And if you will notice, the province right now is saying that we should build our way out of the housing crisis, which seems a very irresponsible thing to say in an era of climate change. So I am certainly willing to advocate extensively with the province, but whether I could even get my foot in the door for stopping growth, really tough. We need to find other tools where we can control it and control where it's happening and how it's happening. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We need lots of brain power on that one for sure. Patrick.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Certainly, I would be looking to consult with the board and more experienced persons on this. I believe one thing that areas and municipalities are doing are including a percentage of affordable housing in new subdivisions and buildings. That might be a way for to have developers think twice and reconsider what they're doing. But I do believe that affordable housing should be a percentage in all new developments here on the coast, especially considering the housing crisis. Thanks.
Thanks, Patrick. And Justine.
I was wondering why the hand wasn't raised because I kept clapping instead. Yeah, it sounds like it'd be difficult to stop growth. And that's something that we have quite a lot of control on. It'd be interesting to maybe look at ways that how growth can be part of the solution when we're looking at water, and like how can we have sustainable development that actually adds to our communities and actually doesn't strain our infrastructure and resources. So I'd be interested to know how we can achieve that, because if we can't stop growth, like I'd be happy to advocate for that, but if we can't stop it, like how can we make the growth work for us and for our community?
Thanks, Justine. I remember a report that came out a few years ago about how community of Okotoks outside of Calgary had addressed the issue of curtailing growth in the encroachment from Calgary. And so there's just a hint of a suggestion that there might be something, some interesting suggestions that flowed out of Okotoks, Alberta. Going to move on to the next question, fourth question, and it's a question to Donna and Kate, but Kate, of course, has left our meeting, so this will be a question for you, Donna. Drawing on your experience, what is your advice to incoming SCRD board members board directors on the one most important action they could take over the next 1 to 2 years about mitigating climate change impacts. And the caveat is, please be specific.
Yeah, okay, that's a big question in a short time. Do I get Kate's time too, by the way? I mean, when you first get to the board table, it is a huge learning curve. And you spend a lot of time learning what you can and can't do as an elected person and what is under the control of staff. But again, the first tool is the strategic plan. The new board will make a strategic plan. If you want emphasis on climate change, that's where you put it, because that will drive the priorities of staff. And then just learning to work as a team. Yeah, it's been an exceptional 4 years. We have worked so well together, and I have really seen in action that a bunch of diverse people at a table make better decisions than any one of us do. I'll stop there.
Okay, well, I know from bumping into you from time to time just how focused you've been on the job, and how that's obviously required and a value required of the role. So thanks, Donna. Thanks for that insight. Moving on to question number 5. If elected, how would you go about passing a bylaw that would require any development to have its own sustainable source of water? What steps or strategies would you take? How would you go about passing a bylaw that would require any development to have its own sustainable source of water? And what steps or strategy would you take? Thanks, Patrick.
I think so. That's a very interesting question. Is it possible? I'm not even sure. But certainly that would be consulting with engineers and hydrologists and the like, requiring each home to have their own water source. Might not be practical, but it's a very interesting question, and it does deserve a deeper dive into with people with that type of knowledge. So thanks for the question.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, I get the feeling there'd be a lot to unpack in exploring that. Donna, you've got something to unpack for us. Go for it.
Yeah, I don't think we want everybody tapping into our aquifer. I mean, we have a lot of wells in the Elphinstone aquifer right now. And if everybody was putting in more wells, you know, you're perforating the whole thing. It raises your risks of contamination, and it makes it much more difficult to figure out what's happening. To ask people to have additional sources of water, like rainwater collection, is a different thing, and that's considerably easier to do, and might be possible to do through OCPs and zoning bylaw. So that is something we can work towards, but that would be supplementary. I mean, it actually makes more sense to provide clean, safe drinking water to everybody. Is a lot cheaper that way than everyone having to do it themselves. If you ever have to drill a well, you'll find out fast how expensive it is.
Thanks, Donna. Don't plan on doing that anytime soon. But Justine.
Really happy to hear Donna say that actually introducing bylaws that would require new developments. Forgive me if I'm quoting you wrong, but like that would introducing bylaws that would make new developments have to have their own water catchment system. Sorry, weird phrasing. That would be amazing. Like if every new development needed to provide its own water for outdoor watering use, that'd be wonderful, and would really help us with our infrastructure and not having to have a million different water projects, save us money. There's this amazing, well, looks amazing, this great development in Seashell that they have a pond, beautiful pond that is part of their plan. And I think that's great. Water catchment, nice landscape feature. and provides habitat.
Thanks for those insights, Justine. Okay, got another question for you. This one should be fairly easy to answer. How are you preparing for your role as an SCRD director? How are you preparing for your role as an SCRD director? Okay, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks for that. Sure, I've been following Donna and listening to a lot of what she has to say. But no kidding, I have been watching board meetings, reading agendas, seeing where they're at, just what is moving through the process, what is staying behind in the process, getting a handle on the procedure, and trying to connect with the community to see what it is that they want to see happen in the next couple of years. So that's what I've been preparing, try to gather as much information as possible, and look through as many resources as I can. But the key for me is to know what is going to be, what are things I'm going to have to look at as soon as we come in. So thanks.
Donna hasn't shared one of her secret preparation methods, and that's going up and down Mount Elphinstone barefoot, or how are you doing it these days, Donna?
Yeah, not barefoot, but and the last time I was up at the top of the mountain, somebody asked me questions about water.
Well, won't ask you who, but thanks for that. Donna does go up and down the mountain quite regularly, by the way. Oh, Justine.
Oh yeah, me again. Yeah, it's been crazy, steep learning curve. I'm a newbie, never had held elected office before, but it's been really amazing. I've talked to so many resourceful, informed, engaged people, and there's like the number of people in Half Moon Bay and on the Sunshine Coast that are on it and that have done research and that are ready to help is amazing, and it's really encouraged me to run. And talking to current directors, looking at agendas, looking at like watching meetings with a little bit of chips and popcorn and like a nice little blanket. There's a lot of reading, not enough time in a day, trying to eat and sleep and I don't know, like I'm gonna go for a nap now.
Well, that sounds more interesting than just streaming old, episodes of The Office or something like that. So way to go. Candace.
I'll just wait for the timer to start. There we go. Kelly has been doing a lot of groundwork, a lot of speaking to different community members, longstanding community members in Roberts Creek, meeting with the public at the Gumboot Cafe, mostly prior to realizing that he wasn't acclaimed. We were both doing a lot of research, watching meetings, just trying to learn as much as possible. And I just want to echo that sentiment of Patrick's, that there is a wealth of knowledge in the community. And it's just so great to have people who are just willing to inform you on all of the issues and the history and all of that. So thank you to the Roberts Creek community for doing that.
Indeed, and I'm inspired by how many people have come to hear what you have to say tonight in this particular meeting. So there's no question. I think there's a higher level, more intense. There's more intensity around dealing with environmental issues right now than any time I've noted in the last 20 years that I've been up here, and appreciate that we have some very significant challenges ahead of us. But I digress, and I need to just get back in here to see the next question from the audience is, tell about your plans to resolve waste management challenges on the coast and what you feel they are. And that's a doozy. Tell me about your plan. Tell us about your plans to resolve waste management challenges on the coast and what you feel those challenges are. Okay, Justine.
Let's say, listen to Donna. I cannot say that I have a plan. I'm not sitting at the board table. I'm not, this is a very complicated issue, obviously. And being in Half Moon Bay, there are 3 proposed sites for new landfill. I know a lot of people are worried about that. But to say that I have a plan for that would be a huge lie. And so I want, if elected, I would go to the board table and study the issue and listen to what other directors have to say and what Scrd staff have to say, and see try to find a site or a solution that would be environmentally sound, and that would be a good long-term solution for us.
Okay. Thank you. Patrick?
Yeah, thanks. And I think the question was that regarding like the sewage issue or the solid waste dump issue on the coast? If I could just get a little clarification on that.
Well, it isn't specific, but I'm going to imagine that the most significant waste management issue has to do with solid waste at the moment.
Yeah, so absolutely, and I think they made great steps in the curbside organic recycle pickup. That seems to have hit the mark in reducing the amount of garbage going to the landfills. So that's been, I think, a great success. I certainly do not send out garbage every other week from my household now that some of it's going to that. Here at Half Moon Bay, I think they're concerned about the location of the new dump. There are 3 sites. And honestly, I have only done a quick look at those, and I would be looking for more support and guidance from more educated people on that. But my concern is the one raised about above Trout Lake. Again, it's above a water source, and the possibilities of contamination there raise alarm bells for me. So thanks for the question.
Thank you. Donna?
Right. So our dump is due to close in the summer of 2025, which is not far away. Recently, we got a report from staff. They have a clever plan where they think they can get us 3 more years on the current landfill, which would be awesome because we need the time. We only have 2 choices. We can site another landfill, which we may or may not be able to do. And if that doesn't work, we have to ship garbage off coast by barge, which is what Powell River does. And if you think siting a new landfill is expensive, just start shipping your garbage by the ton to Washington State. These are all not great choices. One other thing I want to say, a lot of the stuff going into our landfill is construction waste. We need to find a better way of dealing with construction waste than throwing it in our landfill. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. I've heard you hold forth on that issue before. Candace?
Yeah, I won't say that I know much about this issue. What I was going to say, though, was I share that concern of the amount of waste going in. I think most likely has to do with the increase of building on the coast and renovations. My family is in this industry, and I know how much waste is created just with people ripping out existing things in their homes that maybe aren't necessarily to be ripped out, and things like the restore location is overwhelmed with products and stuff. If there was somewhere else that we could put a lot of these things that other people could benefit from, like free carpets and appliances and cabinetry and all of that stuff that is entering the landfill and doesn't need to be.
Thank you. Just squeezed it into 59 seconds there. Thanks so much for that. Going to move on to an ancillary question to that one. And, I think I've heard some of your answers that would mesh with this question as well. And And maybe we just want to hear from Donna again on this one. But what are your thoughts about the 3 proposed locations for new solid waste site or dump in Area B? Is there one that you see as the best choice, one that should be a no-go? Thoughts, please. We heard from Patrick. He didn't think the site for Trout Lake was appropriate, but maybe you have other thoughts on this question as well. Donna?
Sure, I'll jump in here. I don't think we have seen enough information yet. We only had one fairly cursory report that identified the sites as being possibly suitable because they were far enough away from an airport and the stream and the level enough and other things. And that was just the very first cut. The report didn't go into anywhere near enough detail for anybody to start making a decision. There are concerns. The community forest has concerns about at least one of those sites. So the answer right now is, I don't know. We'll just have to keep moving down this path and gathering more information and weighing the pros and cons. But I will say that if we can find a site on the coast, that would be far better than shipping our garbage. It's repulsive to me personally, but also it makes you very vulnerable. If Washington State tomorrow should pass a regulation that they won't accept garbage from outside the state, a whole lot of municipalities in Canada are going to be in a world of trouble. Thanks.
And we don't want to add ourselves onto that list. So thanks for that prudent advice. An additional question. Do you support alternative forms of new housing development, such as planned tiny house community, houseboat community, etc.? Do you support alternative forms of new housing development, such as planned tiny house community, houseboat community, etc., at a time when we are in need of housing alternatives on the coast and also aware of footprints of massive development? So this sounds like an interesting question for you to field. Patrick?
Yeah, thanks for that. Donna's going to have some information here on how these fit into zoning and bylaws, but I would support the tiny home people. We are in an era where you don't need 2,000 square feet to live in anymore. People are quite comfortable in small homes and using their rest of their lot for gardening or perhaps their home business. We could even look at options like co-ops in areas where people have joined in on small homes and share a larger piece of land and are using that to self-sustain in food and other things. So I'm excited about that opportunity for people. I've spoken to some that are quite comfortable in these homes for their environmental stand and position and reducing their greenhouse gas and footprint and all the rest of that. So I think these are a great innovation and there has to be room on the coast for them. Thanks.
Thanks, Patrick. Justine.
Yeah, I guess the question said they're planned. I haven't seen that, but I'm curious to see where those are going, like which area they're going to be in. Yeah, like it sounds good to me. I'm not sure of the details, but it sounds like we are in a housing crisis. We need affordable housing. We have a worker shortage. So we kind of need to look at solutions outside the box. And I think with the new bylaw 722, with the auxiliary dwellings, we can build bigger auxiliary dwellings that would be big enough for a nice like small family. That should also be not exploited, but it should be looked into for as a solution to the housing crisis. Yeah.
Thank you. Donna?
Yeah, I can't answer about houseboats. I don't really know anything about them or the jurisdiction, and my partner gets seasick on the 250 bus, so I don't think it's an option for us. One thing that we used to have around here was mobile home parks. There hasn't been a new one around here since the 70s or 80s. They're a perfectly valid, really good form of affordable housing. Tiny homes I would love, but we have to get over the hurdles with the building code. They're not legal under the Canadian Building Code or the BC Building Code. I know the Tiny Home Association of Canada is working with the federal government to try to get the federal building code changed. And that would make a huge difference in the ones that Pam Robertson builds. They're awesome. The Sunshine Coast tiny homes, they're lovely. And I would really love to see more of them. Thank you.
Thank you. My daughter's lived in a tiny home for 3 years and she couldn't be happier. Candace.
Yes, we are in support of tiny homes and are aware that there are some hurdles to get over in terms of putting those in place. Kelly and I both feel that there should be more communities like the co-housing community in Roberts Creek. It's a great example of a way to have densification, but also keep the forest intact and have a community of people that is close to schools and transit and everything that they need. So that also, prevents further single car trips to and from places. To see more of that, if possible, on the coast for residents and in support of tiny homes, but not necessarily just for Airbnbs, but for actually living in.
Thanks, Candace. It's certainly, I know that so many of these questions that we're wrestling with tonight, imagine every municipality in the province is dealing with these issues too at this very moment. So I'm impressed with the scope of all your answers tonight so far, and appreciate your attention. Next question is an important general question. If elected, what specific steps would you take to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions on the coast by 2030? For example, do you support more bike lanes, more and better transit? How would you tackle reducing greenhouse gas emissions on the coast by 2030? Patrick.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I believe the SRD is working towards this goal, and certainly, bike lanes and better transit systems are needed. They are entering into an MOU with BC Transit to revamp the system here. One thing I'll suggest to Donna right now and everybody out there is the bus in Half Moon Bay, for example, Route 4 travels in one direction and one direction only. If that bus entered at the north end on one route and then entered on the south end on the next route, that would just so increase the ability for local residents here to move about without their cars. Getting to Cooper's Green, for example, from Welcome Woods, you can get one way. If you're at the other end, I heard a grandparent say their grandkids are in the Welcome Woods and they can't get here by bus to see them. So that's a very simple change and very little cost. And would hope that it would lessen the traffic on Red Roofs and help reduce our greenhouse emissions there. Thanks.
Thanks for the suggestion, Patrick. Justine.
Yeah, like definitely encourage people to choose active transportation, like Half Moon Bay bike lanes are really bad and it's quite dangerous on Red Roofs. So lobbying the MOTI to help us get nicer bike lanes, multi-use lanes. As a regular transit user, I take the 4 all the time, and I would like to see a smaller bus that comes in more often. The scheduling is not very convenient, so if we want to encourage people to use the bus to go run errands and pick up their kids, we need to have a more regular schedule. And then that will encourage people to use it. And then who knows, maybe they'll decide that they don't need their car anymore. Maybe they'll not use it, save money on gas, maybe put that towards food. So definitely encouraging active transportation, making public transportation more convenient, and that should help us reduce our greenhouse gas emissions.
Thanks, Justine. Candace.
Something that I learned recently through Climate Caucus actually today was that other communities like the city of Nelson and their region, they have committed to becoming 100% renewable by 2050. They're moving to electric only vehicles, electric transit, moving away from natural gas to go electric, and moving to source that electricity through renewable methods. And I find that really inspiring. And if it's possible for them, then I think it's possible for us too.
Thank you. Donna?
Yeah, I've looked at the numbers on this. This is a very, very tough nut to crack. I'm going to tell you right now. As an organization, the SCRD needs to set our own climate, our own emission goals, which we really haven't. So that's really high on my agenda right now. But it's going to take the whole community in collaboration with local governments to try and move the dial on this. If you just look at the number of pickup trucks on the road, as one example, until we have fully electric Ford F-150s, it is going to be difficult to get people to adopt electric. So, you know, we're really going to have to get together as a community and try and figure this out. Thanks.
I'll add my 2 cents worth in here that I've certainly shared with Donna over the years. I think we need more bus shelters. How about more bus shelters? We want people to take the bus when they live in a rainforest. More bus shelters, and not the $18,000 ones that are advocated for Quitlam, but find an affordable solution to create more bus shelters on the coast. You're welcome. Kate, you've rejoined us, and we're happy to hear your suggestions on how you might reduce greenhouse gas emissions on the coast by 2030.
This is more of a question because I haven't done the research on this one yet, but how are we for wood stove smoke emissions? And is that something that's worth examining? Because that's the particulate coming out of fall wood smoke, winter wood smoke is devastating, not just for greenhouse gas, but for health. And some cities have banned them altogether. So not saying that that's the way I'm going to go, but I think it's worth more research.
Okay. Anyone have a thought about that? Donna?
Yes, if and when you all get elected, you're going to find out just how much fun it is getting into certain issues. And wood smoke is one of them, because for everyone who has asthma or a heart condition or allergies and is really suffering from smoke, there are people who love their wood stoves and are going to defend them to the death. And I've got a foot in both camps, because I used to have a wood stove, and they really are lovely, gotta tell you. But they do cause health problems. We're lucky that we're not in one of the worst areas. Cumberland on Vancouver Island, they're looking at banning them because they have severe air quality problems when they have inversions in the wintertime. So yeah, welcome to local government.
Candace?
I have a wood stove, and we recently put one in that is very efficient. I wonder if there was a way to maybe have people replace old, because a lot of times it's like the older wood stoves that are causing these problems, to put in something that is more efficient. In my research, wood stoves and wood burning for winter heat is actually more environmentally friendly than going with natural gas because of things like fracking and all of that. So that's, something to consider. I mean, we put in a wood stove for that reason and didn't go with natural gas, and eventually are planning on putting on solar panels. So I wouldn't necessarily say it would be great to just ban the wood stoves, but I do sympathize people with people with asthma and smoke issues. So maybe there's a way we can fix that.
Thanks, Candace. Kate?
Just a response. It's right up there with dog parks and as far as contentious issues with local government. You never touch dogs in local government. That's what I've been told.
Okay, sounds like lots of fun and games. Unpacking wood stoves.
Or cats. Don't try to talk cats either. Seashell tried to pass a cat bylaw. Yeah, don't go there.
What about stuffing cats and, oh no, forget. Question, I might rephrase this question a little bit. What tools are available to RDs to expand? What suggestions would you have to expand active transportation infrastructure in your district, given that dealing with Modi is a challenge? So what suggestions do you have for expanding active transportation infrastructure in your district, given the challenges of dealing with Modi, who is committed to the asphalt solutions, cars and building roadways for vehicles? Patrick.
Yeah, thanks for that. Again, just to touch on what I mentioned earlier, to reduce vehicle traffic just on red roofs alone, I think that is a very simple solution. The bus will still start and end at the same places, but create a circle route within Half Moon Bay so that users at each end can get to either end without having to get in their car. Bike lanes are important. I cycle commuted for 10 years from Half Moon Bay into Seashell. The best part of that commute was once I got to the highway where there were some shoulders, perhaps an increase of abilities to carry bikes on buses now, so that when you get to your destination, you can ride around. I do know they have them. Sometimes they take two, I believe. So I have seen occasions where one bicyclist wasn't able to get on. But increasing transit service is something that they're working on. And again, that is my suggestion for Half Moon Bay. Thanks.
Thanks, Patrick. Donna.
If I had a magic wand, I would make every employee of Modi at all levels either take the bus or ride a bike. Because it's dealing with Modi is going to be like miserable experience number one when you're elected. I'm going to give a shout out here to TRAC, Transportation Choices Sunshine Coast. That is a really dedicated, talented group of people, and they are doing a lot of good work. They're building resources, but they're also writing reports. They hired their own consultant to analyze the Highway 101 corridor and to make recommendations on what can be done to improve it. I mean, right now as it stands, it's a bad solution for cars, but it's a much worse solution for everybody else who's trying to use that highway. It's actively dangerous. Thank you.
Okay, so if you want to know how to deal with Modi, just consult with Donna. Next question, and we're going to be wrapping up in just a couple of minutes here. So we're under, I'd say, the last couple of questions. How much attention is being given to education of the public, how they dispose of garbage, how they shop, what they're purchasing and throwing away, how they use water? So this is a question focusing on public education, I guess, about reducing pollution, reducing waste, and what are your thoughts on public education around these issues now, and like obviously what suggestions you might have to improve public education on such matters? Patrick.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, public education is always an ongoing process, no matter what it is you're trying to educate somebody on. We've all, can walk past signs without reading them and get inside a building and have the person at the counter tell us, well, it says on the door back there. So as many ways as possible to educate people. Social medias, flyers to mailboxes are very effective. I've spoken to many people who in this neighborhood who don't use computers, who don't use social media. So getting a message to them through the newspaper or through some form of a mail direct flyer are ways that we might be able to get information to that group of people that's just not hearing it on social media. Thanks.
Okay. Donna.
Yeah, flyers are a good idea, I agree. I'd also like to see more of those like fridge magnets or things that you can just post on your fridge that's an easy, quick way to see what's going on. I mean, it's hard to hit a balance between education when you're talking about people's personal behaviors in their own home, and you don't want to be finger pointing. You are bad because you're not doing this thing or whatever. But there's a lot that can be done. Another fun thing that you'll all learn about is small sewer systems and what people flush down them. We really need a lot more education on that subject.
Okay, leave us in anticipation of answering that another time. Such a tease. Kate.
Well, it's hard to top that. I think that's a lot of the job of elected officials in our modern day is reaching out in different ways. You know your constituents. You know some people really respond to social media and others absolutely don't. So I use MailChimp. I do whatever it takes to get the message out. It is up to them to actually drink the Kool-Aid, but that's in a good way. Boy, that was a bad analogy. But I mean, any way we can get the message out, and it does take, sometimes it just takes a song and dance. It does take humor. People do respond to that, and in little pieces. They're not going to read giant reports. They're not going to read items with lots of acronyms and planner speak, but short, important pieces will get out to people. They will learn.
I guess, Donna, maybe you just comment on this for a second, in that there have been a lot of public education campaigns in your term, your 4-year term. Which have been the most successful ones in your opinion? Do you have
That's a hard
an answer
one.
to that?
The survey we did on curbside garbage pickup got an enormous number of responses. I think we need to do more surveys, because as long as they're not too long or too complicated, people enjoy doing them, and it's a really good way to get some public feedback and to solicit ideas. I mean, maybe there's education you can do through the schools, through the parent advisory committees and things. You know, shame your parents into good behavior.
Okay. Candace.
I was going to say to put service announcements maybe on the ferry in some way, because everybody takes the ferry, and kind of have a captive audience there. Also, sorry, I just totally lost track of my thought here. Yes, the other thing, maybe we could also during events, public events, fun events, because public education is not sexy to the public. So maybe during, let's just say Oktoberfest or other events that are going on in the community, put those announcements out or little sound bites as much as we can, where we can during those times.
Okay, thank you. And Justine?
Yeah, like great feedback. And I think like quick, fun campaigns, like I remember as a young lady, recycling when it came out, that was huge education for everybody involved. And it worked. Everybody did it. And well, we did it. Yeah, so I don't know to what extent the SCRD can get involved in that kind of education to the public, but like for sure, like as if I'm elected, like through newsletters and through websites, giving people some ideas and giving them information, refill stations, you know, what not to flush. Maybe Donna could do a nice little video on that. I'd watch that.
All right, thank you. Yeah, might be waiting a while for that video. Is that correct, Donna? Okay. ladies and gentlemen, we're down to reached the 13th question from the audience, and I think that's a good place to curtail it. Well, just got a question number 14 here. We'll call it at 14, and then we'll give you an opportunity to wrap this up, and we will bring this meeting to a conclusion. So after the two questions that I've just received, the first one is, we have a maintenance plan for community electric vehicles, and perhaps that could be expanded or rephrased slightly to what ideas do you have for expanding infrastructure to support community electric vehicles? Is there a plan in motion presently, Donna, at the SCRD for expanding infrastructure for community electric vehicles? Go for it.
Okay, well, community ones, maybe not right now. We're looking at our fleet though. We maintain our fleet of buses and the fire trucks and all the cars and trucks that are in the SCRD fleet. So we're now purchasing all of the equipment to do EV maintenance, and the mechanics are undergoing training. So we're getting, all those pieces in place that you need in order to move to electrification. I'm going to give a plug. I'm also on the board of the Coast Car Co-op, and the car co-op is a great way to share vehicles. And we're always looking for members, and we are looking for ways forward to expand our fleet and expand into EVs. So join us.
How would one do that, Donna?
Well, you can look up the website, coastcarcoop.ca.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a hyphen in co-op. It's not Coast Car Coop Co-op.
Okay, thank you. Last question. How would you support local farmers to strengthen food security on the coast? How would you support local farmers to strengthen food security on the coast? Justine.
Okay, I'm a market gardener, so I guess I should take that one. Well, first of all, help them out with water, the water situation. Donna touched on that. Farmers need to be able to water their crops if they want to have income. So whether that's extending the exemption period to 3 weeks instead of 2, and then also like having allowing farms that are not registered. Anyone who's not registered but is living off the income that their farm, their farm should be able to water their crops during that exemption period. And also, like, we need more farms, and we need to value our farmers. They are stewarding our land, and they do amazing work. They feed us. So we need to really value them, push for more farms, make it easier for people to start farms, whether it's working with young agrarians or, but we need to reduce our reliance on the mainland for food.
Thanks, Justine. Patrick?
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, absolutely. Need to support anybody growing food. I know there is a program within the SCRD on large water containment storage systems where there's a rebate, or for myself, that system is just far too large. I would like to see something that would support small market and backyard gardeners. I garden myself and produced a lot of food this year, and I don't make single trips to Seashell to collect water. That is always added on to a trip, but it's something that I now add on. So for me, the biggest thing is access to water, and perhaps we can expand the program rebates for water storage on sites to slightly smaller systems that perhaps a backyard gardener, a grower like myself, could use. Thanks.
Thanks, Patrick. Donna?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of local food. Again, this is another tough nut to crack because we don't have a full cycle here. We import things like manure from off the coast. And we don't have enough animals here because we don't have a lot of animal farming to make the manure that we need to put into the ground to grow the vegetables, et cetera, et cetera. And also hay. Hay is another huge expense. Any kind of animal feed is really expensive. We have a couple of good organizations working here. There's the Sunshine Coast Farmers Institute. There's also the One Straw Society. And so the more that we can work with these groups and resource them, because farmers are busy. They don't have time. So they need help getting the resources to help them move it up to the next level here on the Sunshine Coast.
Thanks so much, Donna. Lots to think about with respect to food security on the coast. I thought that this summer in and around Gibson's that there were fewer farm gate markets than there has been in past years. Just felt like that at least 3 or 4 had closed down in the interim. So that was disappointing to see. So it is such an important issue. It's been front of mind for 20 years up here 20 plus years that I've been up here. So thanks for your attention to that matter. Ladies and gentlemen and candidates, we're going to bring this meeting to a close, giving you, the candidates, an opportunity for closing statements. And we've got, we're closing in on 9 o'clock here. We'll run a little bit over 9 o'clock in doing so. Really appreciate your time and thoughts and energy and good spirit that you have brought here to our meeting this evening. We're going to start with you, Patrick. Well, we'll go in this order: Patrick, Justine, Candace, Donna, and Kate-Louise. Would you please summarize your thoughts about your candidacy or your upcoming term in regional government?
Yeah, thanks for that. It was a great discussion tonight. Happy to hear from everybody and such an engaged community. There's lots of ideas out there. I'm looking forward to working with the board members and the staff to move our process forward. Don't just be a team player, get on board and not reinvent any wheels or change directions, but follow the path that they're on. There's great ideas going on, and the SRD's been working hard. And in a lot of these initiatives, we all think that they're going too slow and all the rest of it, but get onto the website, start reading and educating ourselves to what is going on, and we'll find that there is a lot going on behind the scenes. And as we mentioned, communicating and getting everybody knowledgeable on what is happening is a little difficult, and some of that onus is on ourselves. The website's full of lots of information. Just in closing, I just want to thank everybody involved tonight, the tech people, moderators, everybody behind. Thank you to all the candidates participating, the audience out there with great questions. Really shows engagement, and I am just looking forward to working with the team, working with the staff to make the coast a more livable place for everybody. So thanks for the time tonight. Really appreciated the opportunity.
Thank you, Patrick. Justine, your closing comments.
I don't think I've got a couple minutes in me, so I'm going to keep it short. I think my big takeaway is that the Sunshine Coast is going to have a great board. What an amazing group of people. It's been an honor to be here and exchange ideas with you all. And, you know, like, we didn't disagree on much or anything. So that's really amazing. And thank you, Donna, for your wisdom, and and Kate-Louise too. And, you know, if I'm elected, I'd be very honored to work with the board and with the SCRD staff. And yeah, I'm exhausted. But this was great. Thank you, everybody, for the questions and for tuning in. The fact that so many people tuned in is so heartwarming, and people are engaged and people are on it, and what an amazing community we live in. Thank you.
Well, thanks to you, Justine. And I'd hope all you candidates have been, self-responding as the evening went on. This hasn't been an exhausting event for you. Because as Donna mentioned, this has a lot in common with the MO of regional government. Is that right, Donna? Yeah, she's just nodded. Candace, your closing comments, please.
I find this a little hard to comment on as the alternate, but I think that Kelly will be very happy to work with you all, and I hopefully will get to work with you guys periodically. Thank you to the SCCA for hosting this, and for obviously it's one of the first meetings, and I think that it's so important that it is, because it is about climate change and getting our perspectives and having questions posed to us about those issues is very important. And it's great to see that the community and all of the directors and board members will be so engaged on this issue for me. So thank you to you all.
Thanks very much, Candace. Donna.
I'm going to start with a quick commercial for the election. Don't forget that there is still a school board election happening, even if your candidate was acclaimed in your area. If not enough people vote for school district, it's going to create some sort of terrible administrative problem that I don't know the details of. So most of the challenges we face at the SCRD aren't unique. And rather than fight our battles one little jurisdiction at a time across the province, we need to focus on advocacy with senior government to remove the barriers we face to climate action. That's why I stepped up to serve on the executive of the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities. And I will be focusing a lot on advocacy with senior government in this coming term. And finally, I just want to give a plug for citizen science. I think citizen science is one of the tools that we could really bring to bear here. Take stream keepers as an example. They're just absolutely outstanding local residents who go out and gather data to monitor and understand the condition of our creeks and streams. And we need a lot of data to understand our local forests, our environment, our shorelines. We've taken all of this for granted, and we're only now starting to fully understand their value and how they function. And we're only now beginning to tap into Indigenous knowledge. So there's a lot that needs to be done, but there's also a lot that individual people can do to help. And this is where the grassroots organizing will be key to going forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Donna. And our last candidate to speak this evening, Kate-Louise.
Thank you so much. And a huge shout out to the Sunshine Coast Conservation Association. This is such a great opportunity to meet the other candidates and just the level of conversation and discussion, the level of questions from the audience is so encouraging to see that we can work together, and that it's as daunting as some of the challenges are, and they're massive. If we are seeing things in the same light, we have much greater chance of overcoming these. One of the focuses I would like to bring to this term is the Howe Sound area in terms of that wider region, and the opportunities of having the latest UNESCO biosphere connected to our Sunshine Coast area. And they just got $926,000 to support a lot of the initiatives we've been talking about data, about understanding our fresh water, understanding what the watersheds in the Howe Sound. So there is opportunities to work with that greater area. And also it's a great opportunity for me to bring the island perspective into the Sunshine Coast. We are part of the Sunshine Coast Regional District, and sometimes the islands do get forgotten. So here's to islands. Oh, and by the way, my website is Houseoundkate.ca.
Well, thank you, Kate. And in wrapping tonight's meeting, myself, I want to thank the candidates, all of you for your, insights and expertise and willingness to step forward to serve your community in the ways that you have really circumscribed this evening. It's heartwarming and extremely gratifying to live in a place where people of your caliber step forward to serve our municipal governments. The shout out is also to the audience for joining tonight, for the very high level of engagement that you obviously have, and an encouragement to you to offer your assistance to these candidates on October 16th and beyond, when the work of the next government begins. Shout out tonight to the SCCA for hosting and preparing and hosting this meeting, providing me with a flawless script to follow, and also to the partners in the production this evening, the Alliance for Democracy and the Coast Climate Action Network played important roles in helping bring this meeting forward. That's it for me. I'd like to close by offering the microphone back to Executive Director of the Sunshine Coast Conservation Association, Suzanne Singer.
Thank you, Michael. I just also want to give some thanks. It was such an amazing meeting, you guys. It's really amazing to hear how engaged you are and how hardworking you are as candidates, and the fact that we've got, almost everybody showing up to a meeting where most of you have been acclaimed. Like, give yourselves a hand. That's a huge sign of what we're preparing for and how we can work together in the future. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for that. And obviously the SCCA is very much looking forward to working with you guys. And I want to give a huge shout out to you, Michael, for being our moderator. You did such a great job. You walk us through the sometimes sticky and boring parts of an all candidates meeting, and you make it really fun. So I really appreciate that. We're really grateful to all the folks who showed up in the gallery. You made the meeting, you make the community. So just to sort of reiterate what Michael said, please keep showing up, come to the meetings, connect with the SCCA. We do rally the grassroots and participate in a lot of the programs that your candidates are talking about wanting to support. So reach out to us. We've got links in the chat. Voting information is, advanced voting Wednesday, October 5th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. On the 11th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then general voting day, October 15th. So please do get out to vote. And I'm actually going to invite the candidates, if you guys want to put links to your websites or anything like that into the chat, we can post those on the video on the YouTube channel once we put that up on the internet. Also, please do check out the website, and we have invited all of the candidates to answer those 5 written questions that we started the meeting with in detail. So if you thought you didn't get the full answers here, there will be more. So that's on our website too, and Riley's posted those links in the chat. So once again, thank you all so much for coming out and taking part in this, and happy voting.
Thank you. And best wishes to all you candidates in the remaining of your election and the remainder of your election, whether you're acclaimed or not. Appreciate your stepping up.
And I can't stop
Okay.
recording. Someone else will do that.
You want me to stop it, Suzanne?